Oh, we in here. We live, baby. Listen, I got Champ in here with me. I got Brandon Clay in here with me on the Coach Reed Live show Monday night. Listen, Clay, I'm going to give people a couple minutes to go in here because, Champ, what you don't understand about Brandon Clay, he was vicious in the group chat this weekend. He was vicious because he knows that my favorite women's player of all time is who, Brandon Clay?
Diana Taurasi. It should be. She's a legend. Like let's start there. There will be no Diana Taurasi shade, hate, negativity spewed on this podcast.
But that being said, you were vicious this weekend to me in the chat. You were vicious. So let's get into it. Caitlin Clark versus Diana Taurasi, Brandon Clay. Give everybody your breakdown on the game.
Okay. Let me start here. Caitlin Clark is really like that. I'm talking about Metro Boomin, Future, Kendrick Lamar like that. And she went into Phoenix, got down about 20 and said, wop. I'm going to do my stuff. Almost had a triple-double. Would have been the first rookie in history to get it done in the WNBA. I predict she gets it done before the end of the year. Taurasi was great. 19, 3-3. Good day for her. We cool. Like, again, there's no shade. Two things can coexist at the same time. Jermaine Cole. Two legends can coexist. You have the new legend. You got the older legend. And the passing of the guard has begun. And you saw that on Sunday. You saw the crowd stay after. That was really what got me reading. The game was cool, but it was the crowd. Hold on. Let me hear my Carl Reed voice. The crowd was so strong. They stayed. They didn't go nowhere. They wanted the autographs. You would have thought they played at Gamebridge in Indiana. But nope, it was in Phoenix. Caitlin Clark did what she was supposed to do. She understood the assignment.
Bro, how are you saying that? Like you said, Metro Boomin, you said Future, you said changing of the guard. It's been no win, Champ. How is it a changing of the guard? I'm going to go to you. There's been no championships won. What are we talking about?
Right now, Caitlin Clark is selling tickets, which is great for the WNBA. And she had a tremendous collegiate career, all-time leading scorer, and led her team to the Final Four twice. And we got to give her props in terms of the star power that she brings to the WNBA in terms of that and filling up the seats. But to sit up here and say that what happened last night, no doubt about it. She is a star in the making, and we salute that. But Taurasi is the greatest ever. Arguably, it's a few other young ladies that can make that case, but Taurasi is one of the golden standards of women's basketball. Ain't no doubt about it. And Caitlin Clark is just beginning, but she got to win. She has to win. And I think we live in a society now that we try to discount winning. And winning is what brings the conversation to the next level. When the stars win, she has to win.
I don't disagree with that, Carl. I think to add to your point, Champ, before you go, CR, when you look at what Caitlin Clark did, and if you know me, you know I don't like, again, all respect to everybody that's come before her. My platform is not that she's the greatest. My platform is she's the biggest draw. So, Champ, you hit on that. But What I think you're seeing is she goes to Iowa, a place that is not traditionally won. They wind up in the national championship game 2 years in a row. Kate Martin obviously is having a good start to her career, but there's nothing about Iowa that has produced pro after pro after pro. Something different there. She's in Indiana. They were awful. They've had the first pick multiple years in a row now. Aaliyah Boston is a direct result of how bad they were. She now is number one pick along with Aaliyah Boston. They've been able to draft Kelsey Mitchell. They've gotten a lot of good pieces because they've been so bad. Now all of a sudden you blink and they're right at 500 and they're beating teams like the Mercury on the road. That's a hard assignment. So yeah, by no means is the job finished. She got a lot more winning to do, but you can see the beginning just from an age perspective, not so much the mantle itself, but Diana Taurasi is 42 years old. The time clock is ticking. In that regard is what I refer to when I say changing of the guard, just simply time and age here.
I salute that. I definitely salute that. But I just think I'm a bit pushed back on the Caitlin Clark drama in terms of this. We have to stop prematurely crowning greatness. Sometimes we got to let it happen. See what I'm saying? We have players in the history of sports that we crown early, and they made it possible for you can talk about as one of the greatest of all time. My question to you in the audience, when you look at Caitlin Clark and the young ladies before her, do you see her being the best player ever in the WNBA? Or do you see her being one of the best, not the best?
I mean, I would say one of the best until she wins. She got to win something. I think we're all in agreement there. But she's done a good job, to her credit, of stepping right into a league that was obviously targeting her, waiting and ready for her. And she's carried heavy as the head, right? Like, she's gotten better with every progressive game. There hadn't been that rookie wall you would expect from someone who plays last night, 39 more minutes. Every game you look at that box score, and Reed knows because I sent it to him, 38 minutes, 39 minutes. She's playing darn near every minute, and she just played all the minutes for Iowa, right? Nika Mule was guarding her 94 feet with UConn, and here we are, not 90 days later, and she's leading her team to wins in the WNBA. So, again, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but it reminds me a lot of when you saw the younger group of rappers, right? Drake, Jermaine Cole, a young Kendrick, and you're like, hey, those guys got the talent to do something. They got some things they got to do, but they got the talent. She did it in college. She's doing it again, but she's got to win some games. I'm in complete agreement with that. Reed, go ahead, give us your take, my guy.
Bro, this is crazy. I'm having problems with my camera right now. That I'm listening to you, maybe because you so much on Caitlin Clark. My goodness.
Hey,
listen, bro. And every time he says it, he also doubles down on it by bringing up J. Cole, Jay-Z. Who else?
Oh, I said Jay-Z. That's blasphemous.
He done compared it to Hulk Hogan.
Hey,
he done compared it to the Undertaker. He done compared it to Floyd Mayweather. Like,
wow.
B, what about Candace Parker? What about Maya Moore? What about Swin Cash? What about Swoops? What about Cynthia Cooper? You've been watching women's basketball a long time. Talk to me.
Okay. I sent a post out earlier today and have Brandon Clay Scouting episode actually devoted to this. Caitlin Clark is not the best player. She's not the most storied player. I'm not saying any of that. I'm not even saying she's going to be the best player eventually. That is not my take. That's not the hot take. The hot take is she's the biggest draw, singular draw that I've ever seen. I go back to LeBron James, and you boys both were around for that. St. Vincent, St. Mary's, holding them, pulling up. He comes out rookie year. Heavy expectation. And what's he do? He delivers from the jump. Did the Cavaliers win the title? No, they didn't win the title. LeBron didn't win a title for years. He had to get out of town and get to a next place in Miami.
Wait. Are we comparing Caitlin to LeBron?
Yeah, that's what you caught that. That's what he did.
Hey,
okay, so give me a draw.
I ain't got started yet tonight, but I'm just saying,
you're seeing the videos. You're seeing the highlight. You're seeing the fan appreciation. You're seeing the jersey numbers. You're seeing the all-star voting. You're seeing all these things for someone who's been in the league for 75 days. Give me someone who's walked into the WNBA and within 75 days has had this type of hype surrounding her and has lived up to it. Give me somebody. If you can, I'll step back. I've never seen it.
Are you talking about from a media standpoint?
Media standpoint.
Or are you talking about production-wise?
I'm talking about both.
I can name a list.
Let's go.
Go ahead, champ. I'm with you. I need sold-out arenas. Hold on now. Listen. I need sold-out arenas. I need fan appreciation, and I need stats. If you can give me that, I'm with you.
So sold-out arenas mean what?
The arena sold out.
Lonzo Ball sold out Vegas.
Hold on. No, we're not going to the men's side. We're not going
to the men's side. No. We talking about just player, period. I'm not taking no shots at no player. I just think this. Listen, you got to remember something. Let me break this down to you.
Talk to me.
She's the greatest player ever in Iowa history. She's the most popular player in Iowa history. She has an entire state. So understand that. And you translate that to the WNBA, her following is crazy. If she was born in California, would we have the same fan fandom like this throughout? I'm not taking nothing away from Caitlin Clark. She's amazing. But, I mean, I'm giving you pushback because we talking about what's on the floor. When you talk about on the floor, when we put the tape in, when we watch her play basketball, are you looking at one of the 10 best female basketball players of all time when you watch her play the game? I'm not saying that's not the case.
Can you answer that question? Don't stop. Don't stop.
I'm asking you that seriously.
You went off target, though. She's been in the WNBA 75 days. I can't say that. Like, she's played 20 games. I can't say if she – hell, there are people that still don't want to put LeBron in their top 10. He got 40,000 points. So I can't say that.
So let me ask you this. Is her impact the same impact that number 7 had in the NFL?
No, they're different. They're different players, man.
What he did in Atlanta and what he brought to Atlanta into the NFL. That's what I'm saying.
They different play. And like Mike Vick obviously has had like a generational run, obviously a little cut short, by some time. That
Is she Allen Iverson rookie year?
Okay. She hadn't had the chance to double cross Jordan yet. She hasn't had that moment. We can wait on that signature moment. But she has a cult-like following, like either one of those.
I'm not arguing that. I'm arguing that. So is we talking about her star power or her game? Those are two different conversations.
It has to be, in order for this conversation to work, doesn't it have to be both? For all those people to stay after the game yesterday, doesn't she have to get 15 and 12 assists and 9 rebounds?
Oh, no.
If she had 2 and 1, they wouldn't be there.
I said she's amazing. I'm just saying, though, like what Stephen Curry did in 2016 was amazing for the NBA.
But
His star power, it was box office. I take nothing away from it. It
wasn't first year out of Davidson. It wasn't first year out of Davidson. And like that's my guy. Love Steph. But it wasn't first year out of Davidson. It wasn't first 60 days in the league. LeBron James, I remember the Sacramento game right away.
But the Indiana Fever not in first place. They're not in second or third or fourth.
Neither was Bron.
That's what I'm saying to you.
That's the reason why I'm saying it parallels in terms of the type of magnitude of the coverage. She's leading First Take. She's leading ESPN Sports Center. She's leading everything. She's leading the night, right? We are starting Coach Read Live, a podcast with one of the best football gurus in human history and a state championship high school coach. And we are talking about Caitlin Clark, and now we've given her 10 or 15 minutes. She is a polarizing figure in the same way that Michael Vick was, in the same way LeBron James was, to their sport. Everybody has an opinion, and it's awesome. Like, as someone who's been in women's basketball 23 years, I know how special it is because I've never had this moment.
So, Brad, let me ask you
this. It's really cool.
Is it Caitlin Clark or is it Angel Reese putting her hand up with the ring?
That's all of it.
And walking off the court.
I think it's all of it contributes to your storyline.
No, hear what I'm saying? And we live in a society where color plays a major part. You have a black young lady and a white young lady. And what ended up happening is people were offended when Angel Reese came out of nowhere and won.
Absolutely.
Let me say it to you again. And won.
Hey,
she won.
Absolutely. You're not catching any backdrop from me.
Let me give you some storylines like this. When Draymond Green won, the conversation changed. So some people
Draymond Green is a role player, man. You can't give me Draymond. You got to stick with Steph, bro. Steph won that championship.
No, you're not. Hear what I mean when I brought up Angel Reese. Draymond Green is going into the Hall of Fame. Draymond Green's going to make $20 to $25 million a year after basketball for the rest of his life because of his impact and what he brought to the Golden State Warriors. What Angel Reese did in that moment, in that national championship game, she showed up everybody. They didn't just win. They did it in record fashion.
Absolutely.
They bust the clock.
They
scored more points in the game. Anybody dominated the game. So
listen, I'm gonna butt in real quick.
Go ahead, Reed. I love this.
We can't talk about it for an hour, but I'm gonna butt in on this. and Champ, I'm gonna start this one with you. Should Caitlin Clark have been on the Olympic team?
No. Based on how they go about it. Because not based on me, absolutely. But I thought Kevin Durant should have been on the Olympic team in 2008. So I'm about putting the stars and the best of the best. If she's one of the best 12, she should be on the team. If she's not, she shouldn't be. That's my question to the committee. Is Caitlin Clark one of the best 12 players in women's basketball? If she is, she deserves it. I thought Kevin Durant in 2008 was one of the 12 best players in basketball. He should have been on the Olympic team.
But what about the marketing, Champ, and the growing of the game through marketing and jersey sales and fandom?
No, I get it. From a business standpoint, then you take her. But it depends on how you set your lenses up and how you view it in a selection committee on how they look at it. If it's me, if I believe she's one of the 10 or 12 best players plus the marketing, she's definitely going to be on the team. 100%.
Brandon, what say you?
I would have found a spot for her, whether it's 3-on-3 or 5-on-5. I think she got to be in Paris. I think the game as a whole, there's a disservice there on the worldwide stage, right? Like people, Adam Silver, David Stern first, rest in peace to David Stern. They did such a good job of creating the dream team and subsequent Olympic teams to take basketball to the world stage, right? You remember those teams were hugging and getting them dudes autographs before the game. And it helped grow the game over a 20-year span. So I think we finally had that women's basketball. We're wrong not to take advantage of that. She should have been on one of those two teams. She should have been one of the 16 people going over.
Hey, Brandon, one thing since I've been living and I've noticed about sports, fans tell the truth in the long run. When it's done organically, it sticks. When it's fabricated and pushed, it just don't last. So we know Taurasi is who she is. We know what Kobe Bryant was. We saw what happened with Stephen Curry. You understand what I'm saying? We witnessed Brady go from the late draft pick to 7 Super Bowls. We watching Patrick Mahomes. One thing about sports, no matter how much you push it, no matter how you try to create these new narratives on these outlets, what the talent and the performance trumps it all. The opportunity is there for her to seize the moment. We will find out sooner than later what this whole storyline of Caitlin Clark is. And I think because of real sports minds and the fan base, it tells the truth. No matter how many clicks, no matter how many shows you talk about it, it's going to speak for itself. When Serena won in 99, it spoke for itself when her sister came back and won. And then they played at Wimbledon, US Open, and so forth. They won. When Tiger on 18 and 97 at 21 years old, Jim Nance said this one's for the ages. It spoke for itself. Caitlin Clark go have an opportunity to be in that position. Absolutely. I'm telling y'all right now, when you win and you do it in epic fashion, it speaks for itself. The 3-1 comeback, the 28-3 with the Patriots. Patriots win. It's one of those things, man, with sports. You don't have to sell it. Eli the Plaxico Burrs, when they beat the Patriots, it speaks for itself.
Okay. You brought up, and we'll let this ride. This is good stuff. You brought up Mike Vick and Allen Iverson, whom I love and adore. My favorites. They didn't win, but I still love them. Now, I'm not saying Caitlin, that's not even my response here. But are we talking winners or are we talking greats? Because it's possible to be a great Mike Vick, Iverson, two of the best culturally to ever do.
Ain't no question, but the moments matter. When you think about Michael Vick, you think about Virginia Tech versus Florida State in New Orleans at the Sugar Bowl. And when you watched it, you said to yourself, oh my God, this is Florida State and that star-studded defense and that star-studded football team against greatness.
So
when you saw Iverson cut through the lane and dunk on Marcus Camby in the Elite Eight, you said, oh my God, this 6'1" guard, we ain't never seen nothing like this.
What round was that? It speaks
for itself.
What round?
Elite Eight.
Caitlin Clark made it to 2 in a
row? No, hear what I'm saying. She made it. I'm not taking nothing from Caitlin Clark. She's had the moments. And she's going to continue to make. There was a moment last night. But I'm saying, I think when you let it play out, it becomes amazing. We was all the witness. But we witnessed it in the Palace with the 25 straight.
So listen,
you see what I'm
saying? Listen, I gotta move us along. But we're gonna go back. We got about 500 people watching live right now. Make sure that you like and subscribe to all our socials. Make sure that if you have questions, leave your questions in the comment section. Darnell Wilkes says we tripping. He says my favorite player should be Candace Parker.
Hey, shout out to Darnell Wilkes. He was here from the beginning, man. Tennessee Dreams.
MVP of my state championship high school basketball team. And like a
shout out to Candace Parker.
And shout out to Candace Parker for sure. NBA free agency jumped off. Jayson Tatum, St. Louis legend, $314 million. Emphasis on the 3-1 floor for everybody from St. Louis. That's like $62 million a year. champion, record-breaking contract. I'm just giving them a shout out. B, what you think about the NBA free agency jumped off?
I obviously love the Tatum extension there. Brad Stevens, what a job he's done there in the front office. And obviously Joe taking over for Udoka and making it all happen. But the way they put those pieces together, Porzingis, Horford, Pritchett, White, Holiday, defensive pieces, surrounding them with shooting. You can't guard Tatum and Brown because they can take you whether it's the pinch, they can iso you from the top of the key, they can play you at the nail, they can take a short corner, and you can't double because where's the double going to come from? You dig in for help, there's nowhere to go. As a result, everybody's chasing Boston this offseason. Philly's chasing Boston, they signed Paul George. New York's chasing Boston, they signed Mikal Bridges. Everyone is chasing Boston, and to your point, champ, Boston won. Now they're the hunter. They were the hunter. Now they're the hunted. And congrats, Jaylen Brown, another Atlanta guy, Wheeler High School, man. Cool to watch him doing what he's doing. It feels like I was in the city of Palms just yesterday watching him go crazy right after St. Francis played with Kobe Simmons and Kaiser Gates, man. Couldn't happen to better people.
Champ, what's your take on the Tatum going for $314 million, man? That's a big deal.
First of all, Jayson Tatum, if you listen, I'm very upset. I'm hurt. I'm hurt. I had a dream. That Tatum was go to free agency and shock the world and go to Los Angeles at the end of next summer. You know, I was
You've been drinking that Louis.
Hey, watch this. Hey, listen. You know, they gave the conference finals MVP and the finals MVP to Jaylen Brown. You know, I just want, as a Laker, you know, when Boston win, I get a little upset. But in all seriousness, Boston is the hunted. They the defending champions. They will go back to the NBA finals no matter what has happened with the Philadelphia 76ers. I just think it's just too much, you know, Drew Holiday, Tatum, and Brown, because now they under contract, which means they committed to winning. And they looking to be the first Boston Celtic team to go back-to-back in the NBA finals since 68 and 69. Larry Bird didn't do it. So now they're carving out their own history because they got the money. They done won. Now they chasing, as I call, they chasing the dead. They chasing history now. The storyline for Boston, can you go back-to-back? Ray Allen and Paul Pierce and KG couldn't get it done. Larry Bird won 3 out of 5, but they never won back-to-back. The great Celtic teams of Bill Russell was the only teams to do so. So that's going to be the task at hand when you come to Boston. When you look at Tatum and Brown, $300 million basketball players, they the defending NBA champion. You got Philly coming at them. I don't think Milwaukee has enough. I think New York is tough and gritty, but I think it would be comparable to Chicago in the Knicks in the early 90s, that it just won't be enough talent to get over the hump or to beat the Boston Celtics.
So speaking of, we talked about Tatum and then Champ got into the other teams. He said they're going back to the finals, Philly and all that. Clay, what's your take on Paul George's new deal with the 76ers? What's your take on Klay Thompson going to Dallas?
I mean, Paul George is one of those guys, man, where I want to love Paul George. You can't ever seem to get it done. A part of that's Kawhi been hurt. Paul's been hurt. Indiana, LeBron, and them have more than PG. Even back to his early days where he was behind Danny Granger. Paul George is a great player, so let's not.
Whoa.
But he hadn't been able to get it done. Hold up. He went to LA the same time as LeBron and Anthony Davis, right? Oh, the Clippers versus the Lakers going to be the matchup forever. Man, Kawhi had been hurt from since. Kawhi just was last week over at some island, chilling, celebrating his birthday. I ain't heard from Paul George since 2019 for real. Them boys been collecting checks. What makes it reminds me of James Harden? Everywhere he go, oh, this is it. Oh, this is time. And it's never his time. I'm getting that feel. Paul George got to prove me wrong. He still got time. But everybody calls him playoff P. I ain't heard from him since 2020. I'm going to call him pandemic P.
So winning matters is what you're saying. When
you get to the latter part of your career, there definitely is some of that starts to come into play, for sure. Time ticks, man. Hey, Father Time waits on no man but LeBron James.
So, Paul George, you thought they had a championship team?
I thought they had the roster where the Lakers won that one in the bubble, right? Like, I thought the pieces were there for the Clippers to put a run together, similar to what Boston's done. Boston had great pieces around him, around Tatum and Brown, right? Kawhi and Paul George at that time when they were brought in were supposed to be it. I see what my man David Green said on the screen right now. Paul George is overrated. David, I'm with you. Until further notice, I'm calling him Pandemic Pete. And I love Paul George, but he hadn't turned that corner. And when you get into the double-digit stage of your career year-wise, it does matter if you win or not. It does.
We're going to shift the conversation to some football, and we got a guest that I'm going to bring in here shortly, Dan LaForest from the Influencer Counsel down in Florida. We're going to get into some topics. Dan, we got you on here.
Hey, guys. How's it going tonight?
How's it going, Dan?
So Dan is one of the top guys in the football space, guys, in terms of NIL, player marketing, financial advisement. He has some incredible clients. I'm going to allow Dan to kind of introduce yourself to everybody, Dan. And can you kind of give everybody a brief overview of your background?
Yeah, no, I've been heavily involved in the high school and college space down here in Florida for over a decade. And about a year ago, I was approached about becoming an agent in the NIL space because of my 16 years as a financial planner as well. So it's pretty exciting to really help these young people put together a strategy to understand this new world where monies are a lot. They're life changing, to be honest with you.
So we had a situation this week in football, and I think it's kind of a several part thing. Former LSU Oakland Raider quarterback Jamarcus Russell had an incident where he was coaching at his high school, and there was a $74,000 donation, and he cashed the check and took $55,000. Now, of course, he's in trouble and he's got some things going on. But guys, when I looked at that, I felt like it was another situation where you got a pro player who makes a lot of money in a very short amount of time, and you can't keep up with the money. I was on a call earlier with a good friend of mine, Troy Rhodes, and we were talking about if you're a professional athlete, you never outlive the money, right? Like at some point when you stop playing, you got another 20, 30, 40 years to live. And if you don't handle that money right, then you really have almost no chance to make it work for you in the future. And most guys don't have a plan for that. Dan, when you see a guy that's 20, 21 years old and he gets 40 or $50 million, what are the things that you think that he should be doing to put himself in a position that he's not in a situation where he ends up broke?
Well, I think the first thing, it has to start with education. You know, you cannot make anybody do something with their money that they don't want to do. But, you know, I think the biggest disconnect in a lot of purposes is the fact that everybody tells them what they need to do with their money. But are they explaining why they need to do it? And you brought up a good point. You know, you start taking a look at longevity. And as a financial planner, you know, I help people understand how to keep money in their pocket until at least mid-90s, because we're living longer as Americans. We have better health care. We have all these things that are very important. But, you know, we've all seen this mistake being made with 22 and 23-year-olds, 24-year-olds for decades that have played professional sports. Now we're seeing this transition where we have younger people, 18 years old, 19, 20, making considerable amount of money. And what Coach Reed and I talked the other day, I call it the lottery syndrome. You know, when you win the lottery, you now have something just about everybody in your world does not have. And there's so many different emotions that you go through, but the most destructive is guilt.
So from a guilt standpoint, when you say that there's a guilt feeling, is that guilt in terms of letting people borrow money? Like, how should an athlete deal with family, deal with friends, deal with people who say, man, I need $10,000. I need $5,000. I can't pay my rent. I'm behind on my rent. I need a car. My car's down. How should a professional athlete deal with a situation like that?
I think they've got to build a credible team around them to help deflect some of that. And it is tough, you know, when you've got family members that you don't want to let down, that have been around you all your life and helped you propel to that point of stability. It's a very difficult conversation. But, it's not saying that you can't help people, but, it's human nature to take advantage of certain situations, and we've seen it. And it's very difficult because, again, that guilt sets in on somebody that has something that the rest of his world doesn't. It's very hard to say no. I think it's structuring it in a way that you can help people, but at the same time, you got to set those boundaries.
Right.
Champ, you know a lot of pro players. You know a lot of pro guys. What do you think some of the issues are when it comes to relationships and money as guys transition through the pros?
I think number one is youth and background and understanding. First of all, you got to know the difference between a fiduciary and a broker. Those are two major differences of who's protecting your money. And most athletes, guys that's 10, 12 years in the game, don't even know what that is. Then also, too, what is life after sports? Like Dan was saying, what are you trying to accomplish? So it's hard to listen to anyone who's not financially on your level. And most people that they've been around never reached that level. So then when you get these financial advisors and they make 1 to 2% off your money, then they connect you with the agent, then they connect you with the real estate guy, then they connect you with the lawyers and all that. Before you know it, you paying so many people so much money, it's ridiculous. And you don't know where your money going. So a lot of times, a lot of players are misinformed. And then once they lost a lot of money, that's when they open their ears. That's really the major difference. And now I think that player today will have way more money than they had yesterday, 20, 30 years. That's why you see the conversations in these sport conversations are a lot different now because they have money. And the guys before them didn't have money and they're afraid to speak up on certain things because financially they're not secured. So they really not secured themselves when they had a conversation. That's why when you see the conversation now, you got guys like Baron Davis, KG, Paul Pierce, etc. They rich. So that's not an issue no more to guys making 70, 80, 90 million dollars now in the league compared to guys making 600,000 to $10 million. These guys today, you got to understand, do you really think 20 years from now, Jaylen Brown or Jayson Tatum going to be broke? Nah. Those days are over with. I just believe we're long away from having the conversation of an athlete losing all their money. Nah.
Those guys are special too. Brandon, you a guy that, you got a ton of money, man. You got paper all over.
Hey, there's nothing like that Monopoly board I got downstairs in the game room. That money never runs out, Carl.
He can't see little people, the money in the way.
I know my iPad, ain't standing up straight, you know what I'm saying? So I need to get a new one, you know what I mean?
Hey, here we go. Guilt. Hey, Dan, he's guilt to me already, man.
There it is, man. I tell you, it's a powerful thing. But, the other side of that, guy, is also how to spend money. Everybody likes, I'm going to go pay cash. I don't want a car payment or I don't want this. Why would you pay cash for a car that depreciates on day one by 12% when you drive it off the lot and never goes up? Rich people don't spend their own money. They use somebody else's. That's why they get loans, right? Because you can write off interest. There's so many different things that you can do. Same thing with purchasing houses. And I think we're just at a level that at number one, high school, financial literacy is not being taught adequately. It's not being taught exceptionally at the college level. And all of a sudden, people are into situations where, again, you sign with an agent and they're introducing you to this financial guy. Well, does he know how to communicate with a 20-year-old, a 22-year-old, a 24-year-old to make sure that they understand not what, but why? And what are the proper things that they can do to sustain? Because we can sit here and take a look at $5 million. $5 million sounds like a lot of money. But what they don't understand is if you're looking at a longevity play, so is 3.5% inflation a year. Because what something costs today is going to be a whole lot different 20 years from now.
I think another thing too, though, also, Dan, let's take a number one draft pick and his agent. I think the commission should be split with the agent and the parents and put the parents on the payroll. I think, and then you set them up with a financial advisor as well. I think every player that gets drafted, they should split their commission with their parents. That's the first start with the agent. I'm telling you.
You're not far away from the truth. I don't know about the agents because the agents' commissions have been cut back so
No,
drastically with the
I'm saying
NFL.
management or anything that you're doing. I think your parents or whoever been taking care of you, they should be set up that way. So now that's already coming out anyway. That percentage has to be paid anyway. So why not be to the people that's been around you for 15, 16 years and not the person that came around the first 7 weeks?
Or you take a look at restructuring as an LLC or as a nonprofit, and you put everybody on a 1099, and they pay their own taxes.
Absolutely, that's another option. But I just think, like it's so many different ways, Dan, and I would love to learn from you as well. It's just one of those things. I just think each decade we get better and better.
Oh, no doubt.
And
Listen, there are lots. We got lots smarter 23-year-olds right now than we did 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
I don't want to. I don't. You know what, Dan? I don't want to say smarter. I want to say just more informed. You know what I mean? Because I just think that more with the information that's available with social media and the internet and Google and parent involvement now, I just think it's just people are more aware. So being smarter, that's a cute thing to say, but I just think we're more informed, you know. So and I think that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing because it started to get away from the conversation that everybody want to have, but the real conversation, you're right, is more people are more informed, which makes the outcome in the long term a lot better. But then, you know, when you start talking about athletes making more money and stuff like that, but guess what? The teams are more expensive now. So
Yes,
guess
it's true.
what? The player can't buy the team no more. Boston about to sell for probably a record $6 billion in a few weeks.
So, Dan, I got a question for you. So let's say Brandon Clay is my son, and he's a pretty good prospect. He's a Division I guy. You know, let's say he's the number 67th ranked player in his class in the country. Why does he need an agent? If the college coach is telling me that the collective money is already set, like I know that from a collective standpoint, we're going to get $125,000, right? Why does he need an agent in addition to that for a deal where the market is set?
I think that's a great question, and really, I think the way that we try to explain it is representation versus guidance, because not every player needs it. You know, especially players coming out of high school, there's a select few that you can really earmark, and you guys know this, as having a high potential for success at the college level and even having a chance to go professional, no matter what that sport is. But you know, what is the agent doing for you? Is it true NIL, which means helping with branding, growing your brand to get more money outside of a collective or soon to be from the universities? Is it understanding the legal and contract issues? Because even though collective contracts are pretty straightforward, brand deals can be a little bit more tricky because you have no guidance there. But also it's structuring the deal. It's not necessarily getting more money from the collective. It's getting more value for what you're getting. You know, I love talking to young people right now, and they're saying, I want to buy a car. And I'm like, great. What's your credit score? And because they don't have one. So how are you going to buy a car? Maybe that's something that's negotiated in that deal. And then that final piece is the philanthropy. You know, setting up that philanthropy option, but also the business planning of it is, how do I now receive that money? No different than you would do with anybody else. Is how do you receive it? You understand the taxation. How can we reduce the taxes? So it depends on what that agent is doing for them. If it's simply a play where we're going to charge you this because we can get you more, then I question that, because you're right. The collectives are pretty much set. There are a few exceptions, but I think it's helping them understand that there's more money out there than just what the collective is offering you, because we've seen brands get a little bit closer to these college athletes here over the last couple of years, especially the last 18 months. We're seeing more NIL deals. It used to be collective money was 98% of NIL. Now we're seeing that be around 85% of it. So, and the other thing too is an NIL deal doesn't necessarily need to be monetarily. It could be trade of services. It's about building a brand and putting yourself out there. And not only that, you know, I do a high school football media day here in Central Florida. it's about giving these kids the opportunity to grow their brand with experience. I got kids all the time asking me, can I get an NIL deal? I said, probably not with your 500 followers on Twitter.
You bring up
That was a good one.
You bring up a good point, because I've often thinking, and Brandon and I talk about this a lot, and Champ and I do too. The top tier players, there's only a handful of guys that are getting legitimate marketing NIL deals. But I can remember when we played, you couldn't even have a job. You couldn't monetize YouTube. For guys that are good players, but they're not going to get a deal from, Nike, Adidas, Gatorade, Powerade, or one of the numerous, major brands out there. Now, what are some of the ways that they can monetize themselves and build their brand so they can generate some revenue?
I think it starts in your hometown. I think as your popularity grows, it's already, and this goes back to the transition to the college level of high school. You get to college, you're just another great high school player. So you have to kind of unwind and say, okay, where can I find value? And if it means you pick up $1,000 here, well, if you get 10 of those, you just made 10 extra grand.
True.
But, it's about, I could literally get an NIL deal with my guy that cuts my hair, right? And that NIL deal is, I'm going to promote your barbershop, but I don't pay for a haircut all year. So there's so many things that you can do to build your brand, because all of a sudden they're seeing this player on social media. Oh, now he's representing this guy. I have yet to see a college player anywhere in the United States where they've announced an NIL deal and that monetary value has been announced.
That's true. Hey, Dan, question. Who are the top 5 high school NIL prospects in the country right now?
I'd have to run through Rivals and 247 and On3 and ESPN to narrow it down to what they've averaged out. But I can tell you right now that some of the collective deals for a high school senior going into college can range anywhere from $50,000 to $400,000 a year.
That's the average.
That is the average across the board.
Okay, so if you're the number one player in the country in basketball with star power,
$1.5 million.
Okay.
Basketball's always going to be higher.
Oh, I know. No, I'm just asking now because they cute with it now because they say NIL. Where back in the day, if he was a preferred walk-on, that's a whole other conversation for another day.
Here we go.
Well, let's use Caleb Williams for an example, who really took advantage of his celebrity status as a Heisman Trophy winner. They reported, I guess they reported a few months ago when he was out of college, that he collected, $10 million over 2 years, but he had 14 commercials that were national branding.
Wow.
I mean, Dr. Pepper and Wendy's were the two most visible ones that we saw out there. But, we've seen, we know what the top recruits coming out of 2024 looked like, or 2023. DJ Lagway at Florida, did very well. I don't want to release his number, but he did very well.
Right.
Also we have to understand what programs have the deepest pockets right now. And every one of those guys pay their guys very well. But I think that other part, talking about why a player needs an agent or why they potentially need an agent is because there is very little guidance right now in how to structure your career. And I'm not saying a high school player needs one. Some of them do. But I think as your career develops, there's little to no transfer portal guidance right.
Right. I think management is the big key versus agency. And I think with the NIL, I think it's a tremendous plus, especially for the football player, because they mandatory to stay in there for 3 years. They have an ability to create a star power and make money like a Caleb Williams. I just think it's a lot of pluses versus minuses to the NIL situation, especially.
I think it's a heck of a way to teach the business, and that's the biggest structure we've seen. The biggest change we've seen in a short period of time is college football is now a 360 business. And it's been a business for a number of years, except the players were left out of it.
Correct. You know what, Coach Reed, you know what I would love to see, Brandon?
Talk to me.
The college.
What would you love to see?
This is what I would love to see. I would love for the universities, the players, to remove themselves to be governed by one shoe company at the school. That's when the landscape officially changes.
Okay. Here's
That's when it
it's
changes.
actually cool, but they haven't even done that at the pro level. So think about like the NBA, right?
No, the
With the
NBA
exception of the
jerseys are sponsored by Nike,
Well,
but you can wear any
everything down
kind of shoe you want.
everything down to the shoe, right? But like socks, all the other stuff is still top up. At some point, they're going to get there. Like at some point, the shoe companies are going to spend enough money on individual guys and or females, like the Cavender twins down in Florida, your neck of the woods, just signed the deal today with Under Armour. But it's not substantial enough where they're going to be able to fight that fight. Until somebody can sell a signature shoe as a college kid, once that happens, Travis Hunter, for example, right? If Deion was still, Colorado was still with Under Armour, Nike now, Travis Scott's wearing the diamond turf, he could go fight that fight. Colorado,
No, hear what I'm saying to you. What I'm saying is, with the shoe company, Nike sponsors do, right? But let's say a kid been on the Adidas circuit. There's going to be some kid that pushed the narrative to do this. That's when college basketball and college football is going to really change. When the shoe company do not have control of the player, only the university. That's when you really go have a minor league system in collegiate sports. Because that's the game changer. The game changer is the shoe company. So if Adidas can come in and take the young talent, it doesn't matter if they go to Duke or North Carolina. That's the elephant in the room that can change collegiate sports forever. Everything else is the biggest school, whoever got the biggest check is going to be what it's going to be.
What kid, though, has the heart to say, I'm not going to play for the school I want to play for unless I can wear these shoes?
It could be okay, I'm agreeing with you. It could be some shoe company that decides to pay a player that goes to one of them schools no matter what, and the kid, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? They're going to find the kid or they're going to find the university?
More importantly, will they pay the fine for the kid?
Exactly.
So
that's what I'm saying. They're going to do it out of spite, because if you have a Nike school and Under Armour comes in, they're going to pay a kid just to get Nike's ear. I mean, that's just marketing.
That's the game changer. That's really the shoe. Listen, the shoe game changed the NBA, and the shoe game can change collegiate sports. If think about this, all the kids wear Nike. Everybody go to Kansas, they wear Adidas. My thing is, I just want to know, what are the laws? What if a kid loved Kansas but loved Nike and want to wear Nikes and Nike pay them? Is that against the rules? Obviously it is. Well, but what is the fine?
In order for the legality to change, like the fine could be, I'm agreeing with you, by the way. The fine could be $1, it might be $1 million. But in order for the shoe company to pay the fine, that kid's going to be selling a signature sneaker as a college athlete. Not saying it won't happen, but by the time you go into shoe design to even design the shoe for them, Asia Wilson's a great example. Like, she announced she has a signature shoe, but it won't be ready until next season. Like, by the time it takes to do all that, somebody's going to get it done eventually. LeBron James, for instance, but you only have to play college basketball for 9 months. So by the time the signature shoe is ready, he's going anyway. And most of those guys are just askew in college on the backside, and they just signed with the Nike school. Like, literally, Nike, Cooper Flagg was never going to any school that was not a Nike school.
Here's what I'm trying to say. Right, here's what I'm saying, though. If the shoe company is paying the players and it don't matter what college they go to, how does it hurt the business of the shoe company?
They're still going to want to go to a school that's sponsored by their brand already, though.
Brandon, here's a question for you, because this kind of makes a good, solid marketing strategy, right? What is the one brand that's been around for almost 40 years, but the guy that the shoe's named after hasn't done a commercial in 15, 20?
Jordan.
Air Jordans are still around, aren't they?
Yeah, Jordan brand.
Yeah. It's a subsidized
Michael Jordan
company.
ain't done a commercial.
It's a subsidized company with Nike.
Yep.
So now you got college players doing Air Jordan commercials. There's your brand.
I'm
Nike.
telling y'all,
My royalties are due.
Listen, Michael Jordan is relevant in today's sports because of the shoe.
Oh, no doubt. That's why the argument of who's better, Michael or LeBron, has shifted because everybody knows LeBron that's younger than 30 years old, but they don't know Jordan.
I'm not about to do. We not about to do that.
No, that's a great point.
We not.
Hey, that's tomorrow night show.
I was told if I come. Hey, listen. If I was told if I come on this live today that we were not going to have that debate, I do not.
I assume everybody
Coach Reed,
is
man,
older than
I
30,
apologize.
But Dan, hold up, champ. Two things can exist. We can all be right, and so can Dan in terms of the fact that that's now a discussion with kids under 30 because they only watch LeBron play live. All they've ever seen is a Jordan highlight. Not that I agree with them, but I at least get it. Oh, here we go. Somebody under 30.
This is what I'm saying.
You say don't start it.
And guess what? Hey, listen.
I had to
Reed put me on the spot. We're going to go viral. So please, let's not have the goofy go conversation. I don't want to have it. It don't exist. It's not real. It's fabricated. Just stop.
Hey,
who you like is who you like, and I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Real quick for Dan. Real quick, I want to throw it back to the money. He did a good job, I think, of explaining some stuff. Walk me through. Let's say I'm the 5th best quarterback in the country. I go to high school in Georgia. I'm the 5th best quarterback in the country. Means I'm going to Georgia, Ohio State, Alabama. I'm Underwood, St. Clair, you name it. I'm one of those guys right now. What should I walk in the door talking about inside the NIL meeting, inside the collective meeting? I know I call them hometown heroes. I love what you said about the deals in your hometown. But when I go to Tuscaloosa or I go to Athens, how would you then get me connected with people that are not involved with the collective in those spaces as well? What would be your approach to that?
It's funny you say that because I talked to a number of parents, and the first thing they want to ask is can you get us an NIL deal? And my answer right away is most likely not. You haven't done anything yet. Go build, go in there and prove yourself. Get on the field, first of all. That's the first step, is get on the field. If we're looking at anything that's significant. But again, I think there's a process of building a brand, and you don't start up here. You start here and build it on up. And if, and again, I think that, the success of what they have provided at universities as far as giving these young people the ability to display their personalities and to take some public speaking things. I think it's building these young people up to that, because you don't just walk on into a Hollywood set to do a commercial without no training at all. I actually told some freshmen, take a public speaking class, taking acting class. These are all elective things you can take that actually help you build your personality.
I agree.
So I got a question, because this is something that I've heard the college coaches complain about. And to be honest with you, I've complained about it a lot too. You're an agent, and you do NIL, right? What are you saying to one of your clients that comes to you and says, I want to go on the transfer portal?
Whoa. That's a great question. I think the first thing that I would tell them is go to sleep, calm down, and let's try to rationally figure out what the problem is, because I think this is one of the problems is everybody now, especially the fact that the transfer portal is wide open, you can jump in and out at any time, is there's emotional decisions being made and they're not being counseled correctly. A lot of the times it's families going, you need to do the portal. You're worth more. And coach, I actually said this to a kid a couple of weeks ago, and I said, what is your value? And he goes, well, what do you mean? I said, what are you worth? He goes, well, I think I'm worth this. I said, that's your first mistake. You don't dictate your value. Others do.
I like that.
So let's find out what your value really is, because in any decision-making process, your first decision is always do nothing. That's always number one. Mm-hmm. So we start with number one, I do nothing and I stay here, or I try to work out any any discrepancy in personality or coaching style or whatever that is. I think that's one of the things that we try to do is everybody's like, well, go into the portal. Well, let's not. Let's try to find a resolution, whether it's playing time, whether it's money issues. Let's keep that resolution of staying where you are first. And if it can't be worked out, then we look at alternative destinations. But you guys going in the portal having no idea what their value is, no idea who's going to pick them up. And we know what the numbers look like, guys. 40% of D1 kids are coming out of the portal, which means 60% their careers are over, which means your college isn't paying for it. That is not a wise choice. Again, the business of college football now is reflected on the players, and what the college athletics in general do not have that professional sports has is what? A collective bargaining agreement to protect the players. Yep. We have to provide better guidance for players on what the best move is, because sometimes your best decision is do nothing.
So you brought up an interesting take there. When you do we need collective bargaining at the collegiate level right now under the current landscape?
I think we have to provide more and more education. Now, keep in mind, guys, you know this. NIL's only been around for 3 years. There's a lot that's been thrown at universities, at the NCAA, at conferences. Everything's been thrown at 100 miles an hour. And we're going to continue to see this evolve. We've got a lot of big things coming out of this, the House versus the NCAA lawsuit. You got the 1983 NC State basketball team suing the NCAA.
I think that's great.
I know you would think that.
Hey,
I know you would think that.
No, I'm saying based on what the NCAA has done, they basically said they passed the rule. Okay, go out and get y'all own money. They haven't done nothing yet. You know what I'm saying? So now what's going to end up happening is the 5-5 should sue. They should all come together and form a lawsuit against the NCAA.
It's fun.
I mean, if we're going to get it right, let's get it right. Because the collective bargaining agreement to who? To the SEC?
I think it opens a Pandora's box.
Exactly. Do you? It's a thing about this. Now you care about the kids all of a sudden. I'm asking you, Coach.
You know, 19. You talking about 1983, bro?
No, you didn't hear what I said. What I'm saying to you is this right here. When they take a stance on something, right, and they say they're going to pay out X, Y, and Z. What I'm saying to you is this right here. Here's the right thing to do. If you truly believe this, Reggie Bush get his Heisman back. USC gets their records back. Terrell Pryor gets his records back. The 5-5 banners go up.
Chris Webber.
You know what I'm saying? The list go on and on.
Chris Webber get a timeout back.
UMass get their banners back.
Oh, look at Reed. He don't want to hear it.
Memphis get their banners back. If we paying the player now, then we have to remove from the past and move forward. Like Major League Baseball brought in the legal league records and put it with the rest of the history. If we're going to rewrite history, let's rewrite history. If that is the goal, and we're going to do right by the student athlete now, then do right.
I don't totally disagree with you on that.
Improper benefits. Listen. What you do on the court is what you did on the court. Nah, the Penn State with the Sandusky stuff. No, that should be what it is. You know what I'm saying? But in terms of Weber, Reggie Bush, UNLV, and all this stuff, man, listen. My thing is, let's just tell the truth.
Hey, Reed, check this question. This is a great question at the bottom of the revenue share. Talk to us about that.
Dan, I want you to go into that, Dan.
We're already there, right? That was part of the House ruling is now universities are going to have the ability of sharing up to, I think it's 22 million.
Yes, sir.
Which is, again, stress underline up to 22 million. It's going to be interesting to see what universities can actually come up with that number, but that is part of that revenue sharing, which you can bet goes into the TV contract negotiations in the next round because they're going to have to figure that out. Now, there's a lot going on there that hasn't been released. Obviously, they're saying this is primarily going to be for basketball and for football, but in reality, what we've seen with the legal process, My biggest question is, where does Title IX fall into this? They're saying that it doesn't, but I'm going to have a hard time believing that the university, a public university, private university, how does Title IX fit into this? Because that softball player is getting $500 a month.
And that's another elephant in the room.
Hey, Dan, let me chime in on this actually. On the women's side, basketball-wise, that's one of the things that a lot of my clients, especially my P4 clients, have kind of been talking about, just behind the scenes. Obviously, nobody has direct answers yet, but they're already hearing from their administrations. And a lot of the administrations, kind of what you just talked about, who can afford it. And at the end of the day, it's going to be those elite upper echelon P4s. It's why there was so much movement and realignment this year. Even the Texases, the Oklahomas, people in the Big 12, they want to position the people who can afford to pay that are all moving to the Big 10 and the SEC. It just is what it's why Florida State, Clemson are trying to get exit plans because it's going to, when that hits, it's going to become a power 2. And we just kind of roll from there. But even to the Title IX discussion, I think everybody's trying to figure out, okay, exactly how much of it is not going to be 50-50, or if it is 50-50, do we have to eliminate some of the non-revenue male sports, a water polo, a men's volleyball? There are some schools that carry 36 sports on the books right now, and there are some other schools, both of them are Power 4s, that only carry 18. So do we need to trim some fat from the 36 to get to 18? There are going to be some non-revenue sports that are affected in this, whether it's a club model or whether those sports end up dropping down to the mid-major level to increase enrollment at those non-Power 4 schools. But it's coming.
Some fat trimming, but it's going to be unfortunate. But realistically, we saw this during COVID, where we saw baseball teams that had their seasons canceled because of funding.
Yep.
And then what was it, Michigan that canceled their swimming program for a short period of time? So, again, it's no different than the politics saying that we're going to raise taxes on corporations. Corporations are always going to make money. It's what do they do to sustain their profitability? And the NCAA is no different, and the universities are no different. But my argument's always been this. The NCAA could have avoided all of this, in my opinion, if they would have gone to a profit-sharing model years ago, and they would have done this. They would have held a chunk of money, and the player would have had access to it in one of 3 ways. One is, upon graduation, they could take a lump cash sum. 2, it could be held in an annuity that could be used long-term for retirement. And 3, you could have had access to it for medical expenses. I don't believe we'd be here.
Yeah, but the NCAA is an association, and the governing body is for the NCAA tournament. The NCAA don't have nothing to do with the college football playoff. It's just for rules and regulation. And
no doubt about it. But they could have set the example for the nation to follow along as far as profit sharing. Guys, my presentation that I use, slide 2, has a picture of Deion Sanders, Brian Bosworth, Christian Laettner, Tim Tebow, Johnny Manziel, and the 90s Hurricanes. Yeah, and it says, imagine if.
Oof. Agreed. At that point, the NCAA would be running the college football playoff. It still would be in-house the way March Madness is. But they didn't, so it's not.
No Caitlin Clark on your slide.
She should be on the slide. Now you got to go back to the 90s, though. She's too recent, man. She's too new, man. No Travis Hunter either, Carl.
Yeah, you think Deion Sanders is big now, man. People need to see him back in 1986.
With the Jerry curl, getting drafted by Atlanta.
You call him Deion. Hey, listen. Listen.
I'm going to ask for so much money, they're going to put me on layaway.
Hey, Dan, we call him Prime. That's it. Hey, I don't call him Coach Prime. I call him Prime. I'm going back to when I was a kid. We just call him Prime.
Dan, the last thing I want to get you to ask for the people, and then we're gonna let you go before the end of the show, is we talk about NIL. We got guys, you said, making 50, some are making 500,000. You say maybe 1.25 for a basketball player. What about taxes? Guys get a lump sum of money on a 1099, a lot of them. What do they need to understand about what they're going to have to pay when the tax man come calling?
That's actually a great question. That's part of our service that we use at the Influencer Counsel is we're structuring a business plan so they understand their taxation if they just take that check. They know exactly potentially what because we have a CPA that works with us. As a financial advisor, I cannot give tax or legal advice. So we actually have it so that we put together a preliminary, it's called a hypothetical. That says, okay, here's this money. Now, this is what your taxation would be. That money needs to be held into a separate account, high interest separate account to pay your tax bill next year. Now you got the rest of the money to do it. Or we have an alternative. We structure it as a business, and we can start using write-offs and open up a retirement account to defer those taxes. So we can reduce that tax bill so they're paying less in taxes. So again, there's so many different venues here that we're able to encompass in one area versus a traditional agent. Well, I'm an attorney. Well, great. My partner is one of the top contract litigators in the country that just won Meghan Markle's defamation lawsuit. So we structure everything internally so that, again, Carl, Coach, I believe you said the right thing, sports management, right? Because we're not one thing trying to do something. We want to help these kids go off and be what they should be, which is a student athlete. Let us and the families work on what's best interest. But you start taking a look at some of the higher earners, $69,000 you put into a SEP IRA, which by law, you can put 25% of your income into it, up to $69,000 at 2024. You know what that looks like in 42 years when you turn 60? It's 1.7 million. Multiply that times 4.
Those are real numbers.
We got 1,000 live viewers right now while we on. If you got any questions, drop them in the chat. We will answer your questions live on the show. I got some experts on here. I got Dan, I got Brandon Clay, and I got the champ. The champ is the man, and he's probably got the biggest bankroll of all of us on here.
Oh my God.
Hey, Champ just texted me. He wants me to do a financial plan.
Yeah, he's sitting on top of money. So Dan, tell
Hey, listen, from God. Hey, listen, I received that.
Dan, before I let you go, I do want you to talk about your media day in Florida because you got it's a lot of Florida kids and parents who are watching and kind of tuned in. Yeah, you got an event at Camping World Stadium that kicks the season off. Can you kind of give some information on that?
Yeah, this is pretty exciting. It's the 4th year I've done it. It's actually it's grown into something amazing. I've got a lot of support here in the Orlando area with the Great Orlando Sports Commission with Florida Citrus Sports. So it's the Florida Citrus Sports High School Football Media Day. It is 120 programs from 9 counties in 3 days, and it's structured. We're bringing them in. They're live on TV. Each team, whether they're 0-10 or 10-0, gets 10 minutes live on stage. Then they go off and have their media interviews, photo shoot, TikTok videos, the whole 9 yards. We're excited about it. We got Advent Health sponsoring it this year with Rothman Orthopedics. It's an amazing event, but it gives these kids that little taste of what that exposure looks like, and they start talking. Because now it's legal at the high school. 37 states have made this legal at the high school, and everybody thinks they're going to make an NIL. And again, I love talking to kids about their Twitter following, their Instagram following, and it's a fraction of the kids they actually have in their school. So it's an opportunity to build and educate, and I think that's the biggest thing because, again, I think we have a responsibility to help these guys understand what their true potential is.
37 states. The other 13 states, what are you waiting on? It's time to pay the kids. Pass the rules. Get the kids their money. You know what I mean? Direct deposit is the best way always. Dan, thanks for joining us, my brother. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys having me on. It was
Dan,
fun.
before you get out, tell everybody, where can they find you at on social media?
Yeah, they can find me at Dan LaForest FB on every one of the platforms. So, and then also Team Counsel at Team Counsel. You can instant messages if you have any questions. And yeah, man, I tell you what, it's an exciting time, and hopefully this was some good banner for you guys.
Thank you, my brother.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, brother.
Hey guys, Dan had a lot of information. Dan
That
has
was
some,
love.
he has some things was crazy about it too, bro, is that, when I think about the way that NIL, I think it's changed probably women's basketball more than any other sport, maybe women's sport in general. When you think about the amount of things obviously we talked about Caitlyn and Angel Reese. Flage just got a verse from Lil Wayne. You know what I
Nasty
mean?
too,
That
though.
was nasty.
He
I
tiptoed
mean,
back like it was dedication drama, man.
yeah, like I'm talking about. Then you got, Juju was a superstar. Juju was
Paige Beckers, AZ
box
Fudd. AZ
office.
Fudd been signed with Steph Curry for 3 years. There's a lot of good stuff going on, man.
Who's next, B? Like, what's the next girl that we need to be, watching for that's on the scene?
You know what's interesting? There isn't one right now. And obviously, we would have said the same thing about like Haley Van Lith or Caitlin Clark in terms of their following. I thought Dan made a great point of what does your following look like. So there's not necessarily a girl that is branded in high school. Leah Chavez in 2025 is probably the closest one, but there isn't anybody coming up that has this unbelievable following. Even Jada Williams, who plays at Arizona now, just finished her freshman year, was All-American, had like a really, really big following coming out of school. So there isn't anybody that has that organic numbers like following just yet, but there's some really good ball players. And I think Aaliyah's at the top of the list. She'll be a part of Overtime Select this fall. So I'm watching her medias start to pick up a little bit. And it's content driven. You got to put, and obviously we didn't have time to get into this with Dan, but you got to put some time and effort. The same way you put time and effort into your shows, into the podcast, CoachReedLive, the same way Champs will put the time into calling Dan and getting the financial advice. You got to put time in the game if you're going to make something pop off. And that's the thing I think that it's hard for kids to understand. You have to be really intentional with your content week in, I won't say day in and day out, but week in and week out if you want your following to grow.
So, Champ, why does it seem like NIL and the transfer portal has helped women's basketball, but it seems like it's killing men's basketball? It seems like it's really hurt the product on the men's side. I think most people would admit that they were tuned in to the women's Final Four with much more interest than they were the men's Final Four.
Well, name recognition, and number one, with men's basketball, with the transfer portal and guys, it's when we were coming up, we knew about the names. Mm-hmm. So now with the transfer portal, the names is not ringing like it used to, because you got the one and dones, and back in the day you had straight out of high school. With the women's basketball, with the NIL, they in commercials, they in rap videos, they got the big names because it's a small sample size. So the attention is not only with them, with off the court, but on the court, where the big name basketball players, if you one and done, that's it. You're not in college for 3-4 years. With a women's basketball player, they go stay in college for 2-3 years. That's why I said with college football, the parity that's going to exist in college football is going to be unreal. We will not ever see a dominance of Alabama over the next 40 years where you win 6 championships in 10 years or whatever the case it was. That won't happen again because they're not going to stockpile on one team.
Georgia can't do it? No. Go Dogs. Brandon Clay, you a dog for life. Georgia can't do it?
I'm talking about starting now. I'm not talking about
I'll start that tonight.
I'm talking about with the 12-team roster, you have 12 teams that's going to automatically make the playoffs. So a player now is not going to sit behind a 5-star athlete and say, oh, when he leaves, no, you can go somewhere else and play and be on the big stage now. So now those position coaches going to have to work extra harder and at them big schools, because them schools like Missouri and Nebraska can win again because you can't just stockpile a roster like you've done over the last years, because it was either 2 teams and then they came back with the +1 with the Final Four. Now you have 12. So now I just think it's going to be more parity. It's going to be open season. And I just can't wait for that 12th team or 12th seed to win a game in the playoffs to rock the whole college football, because it's going to happen. Is it going to happen right away? I don't think so. I think year 3, year 4 is when we're going to start seeing the lower seeds crack through in the national championship game and ultimately win it. But it's going to happen.
Hey, Reed, here's a point for you to the women's basketball, men's basketball discussion. I think Champ nailed it. She put a little context to it. When you look at the men's draft that just occurred, right? Only 3 of the guys, literally 3 of the guys in the top 10 played more than a single season in college. The first 2 picks never played in the United States at any level on any platform. They've never been here in terms of a season, right? They're guys from overseas. You got Reed Shepherd next, one and done in Kentucky. Kentucky didn't have the best of years, and we all know who Reed is. Stephon Castle, Georgia guy, 1 year at Connecticut. They won the national title, but he was a secondary piece for them, right? Ron Holland was a G League Ignite guy. He didn't even play the second half of the season for G League Ignite. So as you start to run through all the different guys, the Saloon Kid, another European. So that's 3 of the top 6 picks that weren't even here in the States. One of them who was in the States didn't play after January, and the other 2 guys were secondary pieces. We could say that Kentucky and Connecticut are blue bloods. That's a fair statement. But neither one of those guys was the signature piece, and those are your first 6 picks in the draft. You scroll that and go to the women's side, and you know all those names. Cardosa, 4-year kid. Reese, 4-year kid. Beckers, when she comes out next year, will be a 5-year kid. Clark, 4-year kid. Brink, 4-year kid. All of whom played stateside for the duration of their career. So to the storytelling and the narratives and the things that the different media outlets provide us with, we just had a chance to tell their story and really get to know them. Clark and Reese both came back after the wave. You made a great point, Champ, right? They both came back.
They came back, but you got to also throw this.
Which is awesome.
This with on the men's side. I think the kids they play each other too much now, so the excitement and the separation doesn't exist. Where back in the day, in the early 90s, the best player in Michigan didn't play the best player in California until you went to camp.
Yep.
Now they playing at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. They touching each other too many times. You know what I mean? They play like they really playing each other.
Well, and they're not on the main stage.
It's so many games.
Yeah,
it's so many games now. So for example, from a special standpoint, what made you special is just like the pretty woman. What made her special, you only saw her once in a while. Now you see all the players all the time now. So the separation is not there. That's and when the parity, it's more parity in basketball than it's ever been because I think they playing each other too many times. I really do. Where you think about this, how much tape you have on Wemby throughout the country? You don't. You see what I'm saying? So now he a phenom. Where back in the day, or look, when you talk about the #1 player in the country in basketball, but then before you know it, in 3 years, he played over 300 games.
Right.
So now you're not looking at him like he's special no more. And that's what's taking place in basketball. With women's basketball, it's not that many. And the top heavy, they can really, really play. And that's what makes their attention on the collegiate level better than the collegiate level on the men's side. Not saying the talent is better. I'm just talking about in terms of competition. Like all this, like when they play each other now, these guys have played each other when they was 10 years old.
I think it's the same on the women's side, but they're staying in school longer too. I think.
I'm talking about, but we're not in tune with the women as much on the lower level. You see what I'm saying? Most basketball fans have been watching the Jayson Tatum's. They watched Jayson Tatum since he was 9th grade. So I'm gauging him from 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. Peach Jam. You see what I'm saying? EYBL circuit, Adidas on Gauntlet, the Under Armour circuit. We've seen all these players for 20 plus years. I saw LeBron in the 9th grade. But now you seeing everybody now. And that takes away a little of the lust of who is the best. And the separation from the 10th best player and the #1 player is not that much anymore because they playing each other. So the fear factor is not there. You remember back in the day when they opened the paper up, such and such averaging 30, 10, and 10, and you just reading the paper. So you assume that kid is really special. But by the time you touch him, it's too late. They already in the NBA.
We're going to get ready to wrap this up. I do got one question for you, B. When is the OT girls event? what's the girls' league?
Yeah, it starts in the fall, that first week of August after they finish.
Well, you know, my boy John is gonna be down there coaching in that in Atlanta, and both of y'all are in
Shout to
Atlanta.
John Albert, man.
I'm gonna come down there. If you from Atlanta and you watching, I'm gonna need to know where the Spades game is. Right? All right.
Oh,
They
I'm
got
gonna
plenty
win.
of space at OTE. We might just do it
If
in
we
the
playing
lobby.
spades, I'm gonna win. Whoever on my team, we gonna win.
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
Okay.
Listen, hey, Champ, before we get out of tell everybody where they can find you on social media.
Championship University. Championship University.
That's IG and Twitter.
Instagram only.
B, congratulations on order for you. You got the big time position today as the first director of women's basketball at 24/7. You also have one of the top event circuits and
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
grassroots programs in the country. Tell everybody where they can find you on socials.
The grassroots program right here on my chest. We wear it proudly, Southeast All-Stars. Big shout out to Chloe Kitts, 2024 national champion with South Carolina. You can find me on X and on IG at Brandon Clay PSB, TikTok, the whole nine. We on everything, man. Get with your boy.
Now, listen, everybody can find me on Coach Reed Live on all socials. That's Twitter, that's Instagram, that's TikTok. And you can find me and my dog Smoke. We miss Smoke tonight, B. You can find me
Smoke,
and Smoke every Wednesday and Friday at 4 Central, 5 p.m. Eastern on the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel. And you can catch us here every Monday night on the Coach Reed Live show at 7 p.m. We'll see y'all next time.